Good morning and welcome back to Com-100. I hope everybody had a terrific Labor Day weekend. I know with COVID there's a lot of restrictions on what we can do, where we can go, and how we can keep our hair down. But I hope you at least enjoyed the holiday weekend. Let me go ahead and reflect back on your informal speeches. I thought a lot of them were excellent. I really enjoyed them. And one of the reasons why is although we're still a couple weeks away from getting into the public speaking chapter, I still like to give you an opportunity to go ahead, set yourself up for the way things are going to be for the formal speeches. So this way you experiment with an informal speech. And I thought a lot of you did very well. And a big reason why is one of the keys to delivering a good speech is to have great knowledge of the topic you're talking about. And of course, what do we know better than ourselves? All right. So there were some really good speeches. I enjoyed them all. I enjoyed learning a lot about it. It's one of the reasons why I'm now back for my 22nd year here at Bergen, and I've taught several years before that, is because I get to know and get to like so many of you. I just wish we could be face to face. I mean, this course especially is one that is just tailor-made for face-to-face. But it is the time of COVID, so it is what it is. So, but at least I got to share at least 4 speeches with the rest of the students, because I really want you to get to know some of your classmates whenever possible. Not always going to be easy, but you do what you got to do. The only thing I would watch out for, and I did mention this on a couple of the responses that I gave to some of you, we're going to be, when we get closer to the public speaking chapters, we're going to work a little bit more on having you make sure you focus on the presentation that you're making here. Now, the reason why I want you standing is that whenever you give a speech in public, you're going to be standing. Now, a lot of you are just fresh out of high school. You think, I'm never going to give a speech in my life, blah, blah, blah. And that's understandable. You're 18, 19 years old. You don't think it's ever going to happen. But this past summer 2 session, I think one class alone, which was 22 students, I think I had 7 people who were married and have children, like 2, 3 children. As a matter of fact, when we did our WebEx meeting, I made sure to have them all bring their kids on. We had a lot of fun with that. But they were talking about it too. The kind of examples that I give, they're living it. You're sitting here and you think, I'm never going to give a speech. Then all of a sudden, your Board of Education in your town decides to cancel full-day kindergarten just as your child is about to enter kindergarten, and you need them to go full day so you can either go to class full-time or go to work full-time. Well, now they're going to have a special meeting of the Board of Education Tuesday night, 7:30 at the high school auditorium. Well, now you can get up and you can give a speech. Okay? Or I've had people who go to town hall meetings and never had to give a speech in 20, 30 years. And yet all of a sudden are now called upon to deliver a speech. So that's why I want you standing. But I also want you to start focusing on some of the things that I firmly believe are going to happen. And it's actually happening now, but also in the future, once many of you get your associate's or bachelor's degrees and you get your professional positions. And that is, I think we're going to be doing a lot more communication in this manner, okay? And that is through the computer, through the Zoom or the WebEx or whatever platform that you may be using. And you want to make sure that you're set up perfectly so that people are not only, watching, but actually listening, paying attention to what it is that you're saying. So, for example, some of you had a little problem with the lighting. I think there was about 5 or 6 of you where you were very dark, or maybe, for example, you can see it's a little bright in the window behind me. Okay, but these are the kind of things that you have to be careful of because, again, in the very near future, I mean, it's happening now. See, anybody who's in the private sector, where many of you are going to go with your bachelor's degrees, they'll tell you if there's one thing that CEOs or vice presidents or office managers, if there's one thing they hate doing, that's leasing office space. Leasing office space is very, very expensive, and it's very expensive to the company. Well, look what's been happening in the last 6 months, 7 months. I just heard this yesterday, only 13% of people making $100,000 or more were laid off during the last 6 or 7 months since COVID hit, since we shut the country down. And that's because they can work remotely from home right here. Okay? So that's where you guys are going. I mean, you don't go to college, to do anything else but to become a professional. And this is where you're going to be in the next couple of years. Like I said, whether it's with your associates or with your bachelor's or even further. So the things we want to focus on is making sure that the lighting is good. There's no distractions. All right? One young lady, I'm not going to name your name, but she had a ceiling fan that was going. And I'm just looking. I'm looking at the ceiling fan while she's giving her speech. Don't want to do that. Also, and I'm just going to grab my device for a second. Let's not have one of these. Hi, I'm going to talk about my favorite vacation. Those get very annoying also because you're looking straight down. Let's try to keep it here at eye level. All right? Try to put your device on a table and maybe get, for example, if you have one of those receptacles for your recycling, maybe just turn it upside down, put it on top or a box or something like that. You might want to do that. Want to keep it at eye level. Also, and we'll talk more about this when we get to the public speaking chapter, but eye contact. Okay? A lot of you were doing this. You were looking over here and talking to me like this. Let's try to look right at that camera. Okay? That's who you're speaking to because you want that eye contact to be made with whoever is on the other side of the screen watching whatever presentation you're making. And that's okay. If it didn't happen this was the informal speech. In a couple of weeks when we get to the public speaking chapter, we're going to be working on this because this is the wave of the future. Okay? I firmly believe that as this country continues to open back up, that many of you will not be opening your car doors, that you're going to actually be working more remotely. Now, some, of course, will bring you back to your offices, but I think we're going to start doing a lot more of this in the future because things could get done. So, all right, enough about your speeches. Let's go into Chapter 1. Now, Chapter 1 talks about some of the basics of communication. Of course, well, what is communication? I mean, if you ask my niece, she'll hold up her cell phone. All right. Here's communication, Uncle Mike. But, communication is anything. It's anything as long as a message is sent, received, but most importantly, understood. Okay? It could be a verbal message. All right. Get down from there. All right. Pretty simple. Child hears that. Get down from there. Knows that they need to get down from wherever they're climbing. Of course, I use that example because I have a 3.5-year-old, and I must say that 6 times a day. No, actually, 60 times a day. Anyway, or it could be something that's nonverbal. Okay, and yet the message is not only sent, received, but also understood. What do I mean by nonverbal? Well, remember when you thought you were cool when you were 17, you're a senior in high school, and it's a Saturday night, and you decided to just break curfew by an hour? So now you got a little buzz on, because there was a little adult beverage at wherever you were, and you're trying to sneak back into your house, and you think you're being real quiet, but of course half the neighborhood hears you trying to sneak into your house. And you finally put the latch on your door, you turn around, and your father's standing there like this. Did any words need to be said? No. Because the message from your father was not only received, but it was also understood. All right? So that's communication. Now, there's different types of communication that they talk about. For example, intrapersonal is what you communicate within yourself. Like some of you, if you were sitting in the classroom and I'm ranting and raving all over the place, you're probably thinking, so this is the guy? I didn't know professors came that short. Look at all that gray hair. All right? This is all going up here. This is intrapersonal. And then there's interpersonal, which they also like to call dyadic communication. But I like interpersonal. I used to teach a course in interpersonal. And that's because between you and another person. And then there's group or small group, which we'll be getting into later on this semester. Public communication, which is what I'm doing right now, because I'm talking to, my math is 110? I think there's 110 of you I'm talking to right now, or 112, something like that. That would be public communication. And then there's mass. That's when you're talking to millions of people. Someone who writes a newspaper column or is got a TV show or a radio program, magazine column. Those are all mass communication, where you need to make sure that that message is not only received and understood, because there's millions of people who are receiving that message, and you want them to understand it the one time they receive it. Now, believe it or not, communication is a process. And it's a process that needs to be completed in order for communication to be both successful and satisfactory. Now, there are a couple of different models that they have in your book, but what I've enclosed for you in one of your attachments is the interactive model. And of course, this is the interactive model. And as you can see, it's pretty simple. You have a sender. They encode a message. They create some meaning. And they send that message to a receiver. The receiver then decodes, assigns some meaning to that message that's been sent, and they send feedback to the sender. And if the feedback is what the sender is looking for, then the communication is both successful and satisfactory. For example, if you were in the classroom right now, and I start to lecture and you realize, oh crap, this is a real class, I got to start taking notes. And you take out your notepad and then realize you showed up to a college classroom without something to write with. So you ask the person next to you, you say, excuse me, get an extra pen or pencil I can borrow? Without hesitation, that person then reaches into their bag and grabs you a pen. But here's the key. Before they even touch the pen, the idea that they're actually reaching into their bag demonstrates that they understood your message. They're giving you the feedback you're looking for. The communication is both successful and satisfactory. Okay? Typically, this process doesn't take more than 2 to 3 seconds. Huh. So you're probably saying to yourself, well, why don't we have a class? Seems like communication is easy, isn't it? Well, communication is not always that easy. Especially when you get the squiggly lines. The squiggly lines are what disrupts the sharing of meaning. This is when you're trying to send a message to a receiver, and the receiver is not understanding it the way you want them to. And it's because these squiggly lines are in the way. Now, what do those squiggly lines represent? They represent noise. Now, anything that disrupts the sharing of meaning is noise. Okay? Are you seeing that correctly? I hope that's not backwards. Oh my goodness. I hope you're getting this. I just realized that as I'm reading it on the screen, it's backwards. So hopefully it's coming forth to you. But anyway, so noise is anything that disrupts the sharing of meaning. Now, there are 3 types of noise that they talk about in your book. Now, the first type is what we call external noise. All right? Now, external noise is what you probably think it is. Okay? For example, if I'm instructing you and you're listening to me and you hear that banging, well, that would be an example of external noise. But another example that disrupts the sharing of meaning is also what you just saw. If maybe I'm not making any sound, but let's say, for example, I'm holding the screen and it's shaking like this, that's another form of noise. Okay? Another form of external noise, because it can disrupt. Here I am trying to listen to what you have to say, and my eyes are shut. I can't watch this anymore. And all of a sudden, the meaning, the understanding goes out the window. But now remember, anything that disrupts the sharing of meaning can be noise. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a scenario. And it's going to have 3 types of external noise. And I want to see if you could pick up on what all 3 of them are. All right? Here's my scenario. Little Billy, 14 years old, comes home from school. He immediately goes upstairs to his room, shuts his door, starts blasting his stereo. Billy loves Nickelback, is the only kid left in Bergen County that listens to Nickelback, and he doesn't care. So he's blasting his Nickelback. Well, of course, now his mother realizes he's home. So from downstairs, she calls up and she says, Billy, come down here and take out the garbage. No answer. Billy, come down here and take out the garbage. Still no answer. Billy, come down here and take out this garbage. Still no answer. Billy, come down here and take out this garbage. Nothing. So, of course, she goes up the stairs, bangs on his door. He's like, what are you banging on my door for? Well, I've been calling you for the last 10 minutes. Well, I didn't hear you. And you suddenly have this rise in tension and this conflict created because either Billy or his mother failed to remove the external noise. Now, there were 3 types of external noise in that scenario. And we're going to come back to that in a moment. All right. But let's now jump to psychological noise. All right. As external noise happens, as they say, externally, psychological noise, where does that happen? Right up here. Right up there. All right. For example, have you ever tried to speak with someone the very next day after they've been dumped by their boyfriend or girlfriend? It's not easy, is it? Right? Because no matter what you're saying to them, there's so much going on up here that they're not even able to register anything that you're saying. So psychological noise is what happens up here that blocks any sharing of meaning. Now the other type is what we call physiological noise. That's when it's your body that does something that disrupts you receiving and understanding a message, any type of communication. For example, let's say you're in class, right? And you showed up to class with a 24-ounce mochaccino. Well, after an hour and 15 minutes of class, you finished that sucker, and now you only have about 10 or 15 minutes before you get to your next class. But what are you going to have to do first after that 24-ounce mochaccino? Absolutely, you need to go stop at the men's or ladies' room. So now here you are, you go into your men's or ladies' room, and you can't wait to get there. All of a sudden, who stops you in the hallway? Hey! I haven't seen you since graduation! Oh my God, that was like 2 years ago! Hey, how you been? Do you see this one? Do you see that one? How's your mom doing? And you're like, I'm okay. And you're really not listening because your body is telling you, I gotta pee. So that's what physiological noise is. Or if, for example, you have class, and I've had this happen a lot because I usually teach some morning classes leading up into the last class ending at 12:15. Well, what do you think's happening at about 12:05, 12:10? There's something drowning out my lecture. It's called your bellies. Yeah, those hunger pains, okay? And the stomach is growling. And when you're hungry, it's very difficult for you to be able to listen and receive messages because you're so hungry, okay? Or, of course, my favorite is that when you're walking and you stub your toe and the pain for that stubbing of the toe doesn't go away anytime soon. You ever try listening to somebody when your toe is just like bow, 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 bow? So this is all examples of physiological noise. All right, so there's chapter 1. You've got your assignments in the attachments. I'll expect them by tomorrow night, Wednesday evening by 8 p.m. Just email them to me because remember, that's how we're going to be doing this. And I hope you have a terrific 48 hours because I will see you again on Thursday.